So welcome everyone to class 34 of the Biblical Foundation Genesis, the Book of Beginnings. And we're going to review the other week's material, pre-flood economy, including Noah finding grace in the eye of the Lord. So let's go to it. It's such an incredible chapter, chapter 6 of Genesis. So Monica, could you please start with Genesis 6, verse 7 in Portuguese?
In Portuguese.
In Portuguese?
Oh, and yeah, I'm sorry, in English.
That's
my job. And the Lord said, I will destroy men whom I have created from the face of the earth, both men and beasts, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them.
Thank you. And Joyce, can you give us your beautiful Portuguese of the same verse, please?
Disse o Senhor: destruirei o homem que criei de sobre a face da terra, desde o homem até ao animal, até ao reptil e até a ave dos céus, porque me arrependo de os haver feito.
Nice. Any suggestions from our Portuguese masters?
I don't think so.
Nice, very good. Okay, Emily, can you please read question 1 in English?
What is a possible reason why God needed to destroy animals as well?
Okay, so this is a somewhat controversial question, but God didn't just destroy the men who were evil continually in their hearts. He also destroyed all air-breathing animals. So any possible reason you can think of?
Because also the animals were like eating each other up and that kind of thing, maybe.
Okay, and that actually is a real possibility that they were starting to get cruel themselves, perhaps carnivorous,
Yeah.
even though man was not eating them. But, well, I'm going to give a possibility that there was possibly genetic manipulation occurring in animals as well. And how, it's not very clear, but that's something that they were being corrupted as well. Not just man was being corrupted, perhaps animals as well. So let's go. Lucas, can you read question 2 in English?
In which famous passage with a legion of demons enter a herd of pigs?
Thank you. Okay. All right. So actually, this is a good question for Lucas. He's he knows the books of the Bible, and maybe he remembers from an earlier class. Where is the next verse from?
Mark.
Yes. Excellent. Okay. Once again, Lucas knows his Bible very well. So, Pedro, can you kindly read now? We know that it's Mark 5:13 in English.
And forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out, and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were shocked in the sea.
Okay, two suggested changes to pronunciation. Violently, not violently, but violently. And choked.
Violently
Yes, and then choked in the last line.
choked.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, Joyce, yours again.
I will try. Jesus logo lo permitiu, e saindo aqueles espíritos imundos, entraram nos poucos, e a manada se precipitou por despenadeiro no mar, eram quase 2.000, e afogaram-se no mar.
Okay, any suggestions from our Portuguese scholars?
I have one. Entraram os porcos. E despenhadeiro. Despenhadeiro.
Despenhadeiro.
It's a hard word, yes. Perfect.
Very good. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so now let's go read the next verse, which the next question, question 3, and that would be Joyce. Can you kindly read question 3 in English?
What does this tale tell us about demons?
Okay, what do you think? What does Mark chapter 5:13 tell us about demons?
That they want to be in something.
Exactly. Exactly. They wanted to be,
They don't care if it's like an animal or a person. They prefer persons. But yeah, they want to be in something, so.
okay, great. And Emily, were you going to say something like that or different?
Oh, I was going to say something like that, that they can be inside animals if the
Yeah.
Lord allows it.
Yep. And in fact, Joyce is saying that let's put it this way, that they prefer being in man, but then they prefer being in animals than being in the air. Right? Because remember, they begged Jesus. Okay, say, hey, it's not the time yet. You can't send us to Hades. You can't send us. It's not the end. It's not the final judgment yet for us. So please, if we leave this one man, let us go into these pigs. Okay, so that's just to make us think. If they prefer bodies and they prefer animal bodies after human bodies, there's a possibility that many animals had demons in them. Okay, so it might have been a one possible reason for the flood. So Monica, can you kindly read, or for the flood killed animals as well? Monica, can you read Genesis 6:8, please, in English?
Okay. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
Very nice, thank you. And Joyce.
Noé, porém, achou graça aos olhos do Senhor.
Great. I think Joyce has been practicing her Portuguese a lot. All right. Any suggestions from our Portuguese scholars? But okay, I'm going to let you jump in instead of asking. So fantastic. All right. So Emily, can you kindly read question 4 in English?
Why is this such an important verse? I love this verse, so beautiful.
Is it? All right. And so why is it beautiful, Emily?
Because of the Lord's grace. That
Exactly.
he showed Noah's grace, that we cannot be saved by our works. It's only of grace and by faith. And even the faith comes from the Lord, right?
Agreed. So there's grace there from the very beginning, and that finding grace in the eyes of the Lord is a treat. It's a wonder, as I think all of us have found. And any other thoughts? Is it so it's a wonderful, important verse on grace. Has grace been mentioned before in the Bible?
No.
Correct. Thanks, Pedro. So this is the first mention of grace in the Bible. And so there's that, it's kind of called the law of the first mention. and that is when an important word or concept is introduced in the Bible for the first time, it tells you a lot about that word. Okay, it's always a very important demonstration use of that word to introduce you to the concept. So thank God, the first mention of grace, and thank God Noah found grace. If Noah had not found grace, we might not be here today. Right? There might be no humans. All right, so let's go ahead. So that was, so I mixed the order a little bit. So Lucas, please give us question 5 in English.
Is there any mention that Noah merited such grace?
Very nice. Remember in English, always a little more emphasis up front. So it's not merited, but merited.
Merited.
Okay. So what do you think? Did someone say no? I didn't see. Well, whoever said no, absolutely correct. Okay. It doesn't say that Noah merited any grace. He didn't do anything to get the grace or be found or to have grace in the eyes of the Lord. So how about question 6? And that would be Pedro. Can you read question 6?
Okay. Did Noah need to pay for or do anything to receive this grace?
What does that sound like?
No.
No, I agreed. And why it's a little bit of a funny question. You need to pay for grace? Well, I'm afraid the Catholic Church, all right, Mary is supposedly is a treasury of grace, and you can pay for indulgences. And so indulgences, which get you out of purgatory more quickly, maybe that's the grace of Mary. So you're paying for grace. But there's nowhere mentioned here that you have to do anything or pay, much less pay to receive grace. So Joyce, can you give us question 7, please?
When is the first mention of grace or favor in the New Testament?
Okay, so here's another Bible book. Thank you. Okay, absolutely. And so you could tell we're in the right season, right? That we're all have been rereading Luke chapter 1 and 2. So that was Joyce. So Monica, can you kindly read Luke 1:30 in English?
And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God.
Beautiful. Thank you. Very well pronounced. Okay, you got that already, Joyce?
Disse-lhe então o anjo, Maria, não temas, porque achaste graça diante de Deus. Diante de Deus.
Thank you. You went from you went Spanish at first and then Portuguese. All right, beautiful. And so that was okay. That was then that. And who read the Luke? I'm sorry. That was then Joy. That was Monica. So Emily. So Emily, can you kindly read question 8 in English?
How was this verse perverted by the Catholic Church?
Okay, I'm sorry to beat up on the Catholic Church today, but this is a very important church. And sorry, very important verse. And how was it changed by the Catholic Church? Does anyone remember if they took a Bible history course? You might remember. And it was Erasmus of Amsterdam, Erasmus of Holland, who discovered by comparing the Greek, all right, because he had just put together the Textus Receptus by compiling the best Greek manuscripts extant, And thinking everything would be fine, he did a parallel Bible and put the same in Latin. And Latin, the only legal Latin and the readily available Latin was the Latin Vulgate, the Catholic Latin Vulgate. So the Catholic Latin Vulgate had changed the meaning of this verse. Does anyone remember what meaning they gave it? It's actually in the Rosary as well. So the Rosary borrows their perversion of this verse. What they say is, instead of Mary, thou hast found favor with God, they say, Mary, full of grace. Okay, and it's not that different, but yes, it's different, because full of grace makes it sound like she is a source of grace. And a treasury of grace. And in fact, that's how she's treated. She has a treasury of merits, or the treasury of grace according to the Catholic Church, and she gives them out to people depending on how well they worship her. So so let's see if Lucas is there, or Pedro, can you give us Genesis 6:9 in English? Thank you, Pedro. Genesis 6:9.
These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God.
Thank you. Very well pronounced. All right, Joyce.
Essas são as gerações de Noé. Noé era homem justo e perfeito em suas gerações. Noé andava com Deus.
Thank you. Any suggestions?
No.
No?
Nice. Okay, Monica, could you kindly give us question 9 in English?
Thus perfect in his generations mean perfect is in righteousness.
Very good. I'm giving you many leading questions today. Okay, so perfect in his generations. Does that mean he's perfect in righteousness?
In the righteousness of Christ, yes. In his
Well,
own.
Well, okay, but does this verse imply that? Are we talking about that Noah is righteous, perfect in righteousness?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay, and it's hard to be perfect in anything for a human being. We will be perfected when glorified, when our bodies are glorified and we're fully sanctified, then we will be perfect enough. Let me put it that way, perfect enough to be in God's presence. Praise the Lord. Okay, so, all right, so this doesn't sound like perfect in his generations means that Noah is perfect in righteousness, but how about 10? So that would be, Emily, can you read question 10 in English?
In the context, generations means descendants. Were they perfect?
Okay. So what do you think?
Not in the sense that they didn't have sin, they were all sinners, but I think in the sense of being a descendant of, how do you say in English, of Sem.
Okay. Well, of the line of the Semites, and that was Shem.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Well, again, I hear what you're saying, and I love your wishing to see perfection in these, but but I might disagree a little bit. In human beings, perfection is not found.
No, I agree. I meant to say that in the sense of like being made righteous in Christ, not by themselves.
Okay, but I mean, on the other hand, we also know that the descendants were prophesied, and so in that sense, they had to happen, but and the right order happened, the right people happened, but that doesn't mean that they were perfect. They did follow God's order. We can say that, but I prefer saying it followed God's order rather than they were perfect.
Yeah, it's better.
Maybe they were perfect in God's order. That's the okay. But then so we're getting right. So it doesn't really sound now in this context, the generation sounds like the descendants. Or maybe the ancestors. Even I think that's probably even better. So in the context, it sounds like these are the generations of Noah, meaning that the people before him, his ancestors, were quote unquote perfect. And let's explore. We now know that people can't be perfect, generations can't be perfect, not perfect in righteousness. So we're trying to figure out this verse still. So let's go to question 11, and that would be Lucas. Can you read question 11 in English?
Lucas had to go out.
Say that again, Lucas.
Oh, Lucas isn't
Oh, I'm
here.
sorry, Pedro. Yeah, okay.
He-
Excuse me. I was just used to the order. Go ahead, Pedro. Question 11, please.
Okay. What else could generations mean?
Okay, because we're kind of the first easy interpretation of generations would be the descendants or the ancestors, but they aren't perfect. But then,
Yes.
and what did you say, Joyce? Genes?
Ancestors.
And say that again. What word? The ancestors?
Yeah. Like
Okay. Well,
maybe the people before him that do not walk with God, and Noah was he was walking with God, so maybe yeah.
Okay. But I think you were just saying maybe they weren't always walking with God, his ancestors. And we already established his ancestors were not perfect. They were human beings. So human beings can't be perfect. But then what else could generations mean? So it's saying that these are the generations, and I think it's fair to say the ancestors, the predecessors of Noah were close to perfection. But then it says perfect in his generations. Any other thoughts? Well, I kind of mentioned it. Genes and generations come from a similar root. And so this difficult verse is interpreted by a number of Bible scholars or masters, however you wish to say, to mean, okay, so Noah was perfect in his generations. What was the problem on earth that required the flood? Men were evil in their heart continuously. So that's one reason. Evilness had spread everywhere. What was the other problem? Were there only human beings running around on earth on two legs? No. The other problem is that there were an unknown and maybe massive number of giants or mighty men. So that the fruit of the unions between fallen angels and earth women were called giants or mighty men. And it's somewhat controversial, but all right, why were they giants? How were they changed? And it sounds like there's something was different in their genes. Okay, and that can be passed down. And so that's maybe one reason why God hated that the fallen angels went unto the women and created new beings. Okay. And as we discussed last class, there is that from Leviticus 25:25, the law of the of the, what's it called? The kinsman's redeemer. And it implies that that Jesus Christ can only save someone who's a close relative. And one way to think of a close relative is 100% human. No giant blood, no giant genes, no fallen angel, genetic manipulation, however it happened. We don't know. It's a mystery. But that the earth was perhaps filled with people who were no longer 100% human. Okay, so if that was, and that might then be an answer why this says perfect in his generations. And the implication is Noah had 0 giant genes, no DNA from any giants. Okay, so that's the interpretation I like, and it's an interesting one, but it's not one that's very common. All right, because to believe that, you have to believe that the fallen angels and earth women actually created different beings. And the Bible says they were physically different, but maybe it was more than just that. Maybe their genes were different, and maybe they were disqualified for Jesus's blood. So let's move on. So it's very, very interesting. Joyce, if you could kindly read question 12 in English.
Who were the last people to walk with the Lord? How has the walk changed?
Okay. So Pedro, I think you remember this from last class? You knew it last class. Do you want to repeat? Do you remember what you said last class?
Yes, the last people was Enoch.
Okay, that was the last person, singular, and that's absolutely right. Who walked with the Lord before Enoch?
Adam.
Absolutely right. Okay, so it sounds like there were 2 people in the Bible who walked with the Lord, which is amazing to walk with the Lord. But how is the walk changed? Okay, did Noah physically walk with the Lord?
Spiritually.
Yeah, exactly, spiritually. Okay, so whereas Adam walked physically with the Lord in the garden, Enoch, it's not clear, but it sounds like it's probably more walked spiritually, because God was no longer appearing in front of human beings. He did that in the garden, apparently, sort of God the Father, because I'm not talking about the pre-incarnation Jesus Christ. So so now it is spiritually walking with the Lord, which in fact, if we ever get to be written up in the book of life, wouldn't it be nice if there's a annotation for each of us that says, Joyce walked with the Lord. Okay, so it's a high compliment. That's just what we want. Okay, so Monica, can you read question 6:10, please? Genesis 6:10.
And Noah begat 3 sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth.
Very good. Maybe Japheth. Just a little,
Japheth.
yeah, the TH at the end, not easy. Okay, Joyce.
Gerou Noé 3 filhos, Sem, São e Jafé.
Okay.
Cão.
Gerou.
Gerou,
Okay, any other suggestions?
Sem, Cão e Jafé, no português.
Cão.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Like the dog.
It is. In fact, some Portuguese modern translations changed it because they don't like the association with now that cão has a modern meaning in Portuguese, they decided to change it, I believe. So
Ah,
It's really like
Yeah.
cão.
yeah,
Cão.
I think so it was changed for that reason. But hey,
Yeah.
the biblical word is the biblical word. Just because
Yeah.
we change things by becoming more modern doesn't mean we should stop using the biblical word. But anyway, all right, so
Então, em geral,
cow, exactly.
Noé, 3 filhos, Sem, Cão e Javé.
Thank you. Okay, so Emily, can you read question 13, please?
What is the name of people descended from Shem?
Okay, and
Shem.
you, oh, whoa, you
No?
misremember just a little. So this is your earlier question. It's like, oh yes, Shem. Yes, you pronounced Shem correctly, but it would normally you would go Shemites, like the Hamites, but there's a slight change. And it's a word used frequently today, particularly with the word anti in front of it.
Semitic.
Exactly. Okay, so if it's
Really?
anti-Semite or anti-Semitic, then the term in English is not Shemites, it's Semites, no H.
Okay.
Okay,
Semites.
so Semites, interesting. All right, so now we're going to go to some new material, and let's go to it. There's just a little bit of it here, but now, Pedro, can you kindly read Genesis 6:11 to 12?
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth.
Okay, very good. Your pronunciation of earth improved, but it's a difficult word to, so you kind of go AR, but it's earth. So it's more earth. Almost like there's no A there. So almost like ERTH, earth. Okay, very good choice.
Earth.
Thank you.
A terra, porém, estava corrompida diante da face de Deus, e encheu-se a terra de violência. E viu Deus a terra, e eis que estava corrompida, porque toda a carne havia corrompido o seu caminho sobre a terra.
Lovely. Any suggestions, Portuguese scholars?
No, very nice.
Nice, beautiful. Okay, so there we go. Listen, this is another pair of very interesting verses. Lucas, can you, and I like your tank top beach. Okay, it's very nice. I spend part of the year in Miami Beach, and there and you go to Long Beach. Okay, good to know. Okay, so Lucas, can you kindly read question A in English?
How many peoples does the earth was flooded with violence imply?
Very nice. The earth was filled, not violet, filled. Very good. The two L's help you figure out that it's a closed eye, not an open eye. So it's like a filled, not filed. So filled. Very good. Okay, so how many people does the earth was filled with violence imply?
I think all the people.
Okay, but well,
Except Noah.
all the people except for Noah, okay, and his close relatives. I agree with that. But the question is, how many people does this verse imply were on earth? For the earth to be filled with violence, is only a small part of the earth with human beings? No. All right. The implication is the earth was filled, jam-packed. Okay, so the earth had so many people, they were filling the earth. Okay, so remember, how Adam lived to 936 years or something. And so probably had one man had hundreds of children. And not only that, as if there were not enough men having children, then 1/3 of all the angels fell and had children with whomever they wanted to. So not just with one wife, and we know there's a lot of angels. So 1/3 of them is a lot of angels, and they not only had children with one wife in between, quotation marks, as many as they wished. So there were a lot of people on earth, and potentially a lot of people corrupted. So Joyce, can you read question B, please? And we're just finishing up.
What does all flesh include?
Okay.
Everything, like man and animal.
There you are. Okay. All flesh, exactly right. It's not just talking about, it doesn't say just human flesh.
All flesh.
Okay. So this gets back to, I think, Joyce, you answered earlier, one reason perhaps why God needed or wanted to or decided to kill all air-breathing animals is this verse implies that they were violent. Animals had become violent. Okay, because if all flesh, that's a lot of animals. And let's see. Okay, but it gets worse than that. So it doesn't just say that they were violent. It says all flesh had corrupted his way on earth. Now, the implication is that the result of this corruption, that they became violent. But all flesh had corrupted. So if it's not just saying man had corrupted his way upon the earth, the animals had corrupted their way on the earth. So let's look at the next question. So that would be Monica. Can you read question C?
How could animal flesh have been corrupted?
Okay, tough question. And I'll say up front, we don't know. We don't know for sure. All we can do is guess. So somehow animal flesh had been corrupted and they had become, I guess, violent. So how did animals get corrupted?
Maybe because when Adam and Eve were sinning, also diseases came. So maybe when an animal eats another animal and that animal was sick or had some virus or something, and they eat, and they will become or sick or aggressive. And that's animal behavior. So maybe.
I agree.
So,
okay, that's a good possibility. Any other thoughts? Remember the verse in Mark. And what we concluded from that is that demons, they prefer human bodies, but when they can't be in a human body, they prefer animal bodies. And so it's not clear, because now when you think, if someone is demonized, when a human is demonized, it's not obvious that that their flesh is corrupted. But remember, this was a time on earth when a lot of strange things were happening. All right, there was a lot of giant blood around, giant DNA. And if demons were also in many animals, maybe back then, I don't know how, there was some kind of genetic manipulation. All right, so Joyce is saying they were getting diseases and viruses, and they were doing bad things and picking up and passing that along, right? So that in that sense, they were becoming diseased with violence, with bad characteristics. Well, and if a lot of human beings had actually been, their flesh was corrupted, possibly, again, it's not certain, but possibly because of giant DNA. And how that happened? Is it genetic manipulation? Is it just combining of the parents' genes, mutations? None of that is crystal clear. But then potentially animal flesh had been corrupted by demons. Okay, so there was a lot of demons at work. And remember, God was very angry, and those demons, the fallen angels who actually had created offspring with earthly women, they received an immediate condemnation. And we'll get to that later in immediate condemnation. They eventually they had to go to Hades. Okay, to the abyss, the abysmum. What's it called? I'm forgetting in English. Okay, so all right, so it was bad news what the fallen angels did. And it's not exactly clear, but something happened also with animals and animal flesh. All right, so let's finish up. And that was, hope I scribbled, that was Joy. Okay, so Emily, I think it's, yes, Emily, can you read Genesis 6:13, please?
And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Ouch. Beautifully said. Joyce?
Então disse Deus a Noé: o fim de toda a carne é vindo perante a minha face, porque a terra está cheia de violência, e eis que os desfarei como a terra.
Beautiful. Any suggestions?
No.
Thank you. Beautifully said. All right, so Lucas and Pedro are going to take us out. So Lucas, can you please read question D in English?
Does them refer to men or all flesh?
Beautifully pronounced. All right, what do you think? And this, we're getting, very semantical here. We're looking at the sentence structure and what is the antecedent of them. Okay, so the them, I will destroy them with the earth. For the earth is filled with violence through them. Is God only talking about men?
Well, it is clearly saying about all flesh.
Absolutely right. Okay, I agree. All right, so the way that the sentence, the verse is constructed, them is clearly referring to its antecedent, which is all flesh. Okay, so the earth is filled with violence through all flesh, and behold, I will destroy all flesh with the earth. All right, so Pedro, can you please read the last question? Question E, please.
If filled with violence through all flesh, what does this imply about animals?
Okay, so this is a somewhat repetitive question, but I'm giving or building a case, building a theory, building a case in support of a theory that the animals had strange things going on. Okay, so I'll tell you, one of my favorite Bible masters, Henry Morris, whose study Bible is my favorite study Bible, and it has been for a long time, maybe a decade. He suggests that the animals develop carnivorous appetites. Okay, so they already were eating each other. Okay. So he doesn't go down the direction of that their genes somehow had been manipulated or changed, that the corruption of their flesh was not the same as the corruption of the human flesh. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think we can't be dogmatic about this, but I think this is open to very interesting interpretation. Okay, so in English, any questions or doubts or comments?
In our Bible, it says, because the earth is filled with violence of men, in the verse 13.
Mm.
But above it, it says all living things.
Yeah.
So I think
And it's partly because it's hard to explain how animals were filled with violence and corrupted. It's hard to explain. It's easier because remember, we're told that the men were already evil after their heart was only evil continually. So we know that man infected by the original sin and then a number of other conditions had then spread this evilness among almost all mankind. The tough question is, well, did that happen to animals? No, there's no original sin for animals. Now, they're under dominion of man, so that man suffered original sin and became evil. Some say, well, then animals also partake in the original sin. Right? They didn't sin. They weren't part of the original sin, but they somehow are, they suffer the consequences as well. All right, so that's another possible explanation. I like going a little more into genetic manipulation, partly because I think it opens up interesting possibilities for our understanding of the end times and tribulation. Okay, so any other questions or comments in English? All right, so thank you all. Oh, and we need to go here, there.